Welcome and thank you for tuning in to Breaking Down the Barriers. We are your hosts, Terry Russell and Beverly Reeves. Please like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at AISD_BDB. You can also watch us on AISD's channel 22 every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 p.m. and every Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m.
Today's guests are AISD Police Chief Eric Mendez and Austin Police Chief Art Acevedo. Our topic today will focus on the relationship between law enforcement and our AISD schools.
Chief Mendez has been in law enforcement for 25 years, with 17 years of service as a member of AISD Police Department. He joined AISD Police Department in March of 1999 and served in positions of patrol officer, school resource officer at Johnston High School, Go Rams, sergeant, lieutenant, and captain. Chief Art Acevedo leads Austin's Police Department of 2,547 sworn law enforcement and support personnel who carry out police operations within the city of Austin. He holds various leadership positions with the Major Cities Chief Association and the International Association of Chiefs of Police and has been with the police department since July 2007.
Good morning.
Thank you both for joining us today. So Chief Mendez, let's start with you. Can you talk about the role that police officers play in Austin schools?
So we're a very non-traditional role, and I tell folks that all the time, and I tell the officers that because we're in an educational setting, we want to make sure that we promote the educational process that our schools have. And so while we're there for responses for emergency situations or criminal offenses, we're also there to promote the educational process. So the officers at the schools not only work with the students who may run into an issue, but also work by getting in the classroom, providing educational presentations, providing support through either mental health services, liaisoning with other community partners to get the students support to ensure that they're successful in the education at AISD.
I know you have a couple of programs when the officers work specifically with students groups. Can you tell us a little bit about those programs?
So some of the programs that we do, and our officers, again, they do so much on the campus. We have one officer that actually teaches criminal justice, an actual class at Lanier High School. And that officer teaches full-time at Lanier and then participates in law enforcement duties during the summer. And then we have officers that teach the GREAT program, Gang Resistance Education and Training. And Austin Police Department partners with us with some of their district representatives that also help teach that class, or those classes at the different elementaries and middle schools. And then we also have officers that teach Junior Police Academy, JPA, and it's a science elective at the middle school level. And in that class, they learn about policing, different aspects of policing. And they get a half credit at the middle school level for that class.
Well, that's great. It's good to hear the positive relationships that are being built with students at such a young age. Does that mean that we have officers in every school?
We have officers at every secondary school. So we have 2 officers at every high school. We have 1 officer at every middle school. And then I have a daytime patrol division that are responsible just for elementary. So depending on the geographical location, one officer may have as little as 12 elementaries and as many as 15.
Okay. What are the most common calls that a school resource officer may get called on?
It varies, depending on the campus. Every campus across the city is its own community. And so typically the calls for service that are handled at high school are typically what's common in their community that they're around. But most common, we deal with a lot of thefts, a lot of missing property. We do have some calls for narcotics or drug use, and that's typically what we handle. And again, we handle some disturbances, because we're dealing with individuals that they're still maturing, they're still learning how to get along with one another, and so they do have a tendency to get into disturbances, and because they don't know yet how to work things out, they have a tendency to get into a fight.
It sounds like there are a lot of incidences that students may get into that may happen out in the community. Are there collaborations with APD that AISD Police Department actually have where they work with our students?
Collaborations where they work with the students?
Or with calls maybe, if we get an incident where Chief Acevedo and his officers may come in and help us.
Yes, we do have instances where there's things that happen out in the community. And so our officers work very closely with the sector officers where the schools that they're in. They know the sector officers around their campus. We have investigators or detectives assigned to the Joint Juvenile Gang Intervention Unit, and so 2 detectives from my department and 2 officers from Chief Acevedo's department, they work together on juvenile gang issues. We also cohabitate at the Center for Child Protection. So there's an office there that has detectives from APD, TCS, or the Sheriff's Office, my department, and CPS, and then the prosecutor that work on child abuse cases. And so we work together with that. We also have a memorandum of understanding between my department and his that anything that happens in the community that is better served by us because it's our students, and we'll take it. And anything that happens at a campus that has a greater impact on the community in general, then Austin Police Department would take point on that.
Okay.
Chief Acevedo, we are glad that you were able to be here with us. And one of the things that crossed my mind was that now that officers on campuses can't write Class C misdemeanor tickets, has that decreased the amount of referrals where students are being sent to juvenile detention centers, the suspension, expulsions, things of that nature? Have you all had conversation about how that has worked out?
Well, I mean, there's something that I'm really proud of AISD and the school district and the police, especially under Chief Mendez's leadership. And I've been talking for several years, for a long time, about the criminalization of childhood. And Chief Mendez kind of nailed it when he talked about, kids are still in too many schools around the country, and I think we're the exception. Especially schools that are in inner cities that are predominantly attended by people of color, children of color. What is childhood behavior and was treated as childhood behavior when I was a kid is in too many places being treated as criminal behavior. And I'm really proud of the fact that Chief Mendez and his department and our school district get it, and they treat those social behaviors where you go get in that fist fight within reason. I mean, if you beat somebody and they get seriously injured, it kind of changes the complexity. But I think it is a blessing that we're not criminalizing childhood, and I think AISD and Chief Mendez have really led that effort on a national level, and we should all take great pride in knowing that we're treating adolescent behavior as what it should be treated as, is people growing up and struggling with that awkwardness of childhood.
That's right, hormones and things.
Absolutely, and so I commend Chief Mendez and AISD for being leaders in that area, and it truly is a blessing.
We know that the police department works very hard to try to help prevent our students from being criminalized. What type of programs are there out there that help with this type of training?
Well, unfortunately, not every kid has the blessing of being born into circumstances like we were, that they have adults in their lives that are teaching them the values and the life lessons and the coping mechanisms that our parents taught us. And so we work with programs like CARE, the Council on At-Risk Youth, to work in the Runberg area to teach young people, provide them lessons on how to conduct themselves, on how to manage anger, on how to process the challenges that we all experienced growing up. When I got here in 2007, the police department really wasn't working very closely with CARE. And in the Runberg area, it's reducing crime, it's reducing juvenile criminal misconduct. I think it's having a positive impact. But we didn't have a police activities league. We didn't have an Explorer program. Right. We didn't have the things in place to really invest in children. And I'm very proud of the fact that both of our departments have taken a stance on investing in children with the different educational programs. Are the Boy Scouts. When I got here, the Waterloo District, which predominantly serves African American and Hispanic boys almost exclusively, had about 400 kids. We're up to almost 2,000 boys. Awesome. We just celebrated our first two eagles last weekend. And those are programs, CARE, Boy Scouts, Explorers, that really pay dividends in helping kids reach their destination, their future. And I'm really proud of our community's collective efforts to do that.
Is the police department part of the North Austin Alliance that Dobie and the Austin Voices and Austin Partners have developed?
Absolutely, and we have a great relationship in Dobie and in that alliance. And again, it's about—
And with Mr. Weeks?
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is for us is that it's really about investing in young people.
Right.
You know, as a person of faith, I know that we're all born innocent. And bad behavior is learned behavior,
Yes.
and good behavior is learned behavior. And the more that we invest as police departments and communities in teaching kids the good behavior and in helping kids overcome the challenges of growing up, I think it is absolutely a win for the safety of our officers, but even more importantly, the safety of our children. And when you look at the demographics of our country, that communities of color are really you know, we're becoming very quickly a minority majority. We have to invest in the success of those black and brown children if we're going to continue to be a world power. And so that's why we're committed to youth.
I like the term invest that I keep hearing you say. And in working with our communities, especially our communities of color, that investment is critical. And it's good to see, especially with things that are going on throughout our nation, that our law enforcement entities within the city of Austin are really looking at building those relationships and investing in our young people, because that's where our future lies. Mm-hmm. And so talk to us a little more about your district representatives, because you have them located throughout the community, and I believe, if I understand correctly, that their role is to really get into their assigned communities and get to know their families.
Absolutely, and our district representative is really your community liaison, your neighborhood cop. He or she understands the importance of building bridges, building open lines of communication, and they're people that are, I think they're very special, because they have time, unlike your patrol officer that has to go from call to call to call, they have time to actually forge those relationships, get to know people in the community, to be the face for the police department. We have almost 60 personnel citywide committed to this program, and it is something that when I go, it's even if I go to a forum, a community forum, where there may be a segment of the community that may be angry about a specific issue involving the police department, they'll always say, we love our district rep. And I really believe that familiarity breeds trust, trust breeds cooperation, cooperation breeds really good outcomes, and that's what the district representative is. They're the problem-solving, long-term, that the community officer that really is the liaison for the department. And I have yet to hear somebody say, hey, we really hate the district representative program. Our community loves it, and we're very proud of it.
And the same thing goes with our school resource officers. They build those relationships with the students.
And that's what the expectation is that they work the campus because that's their community. Mm-hmm. And those students they see every day. And I teach and I tell the officers, you're going to see them every day this year, next year, and for the next 3 or 4 years, depending on what grade they're in. And so we have to build those relationships. And it's not just with the student, it's with their parents, their grandparents, the aunts,
That's
uncles, right. Because all of those individuals at some point during a school year come in contact with the officer or with the student. And so nowadays we have a lot of students that aren't just raised by their parents. They're with grandma, grandpa, aunts,
right.
uncles. And so we build those relationships, and a good SRO not only knows the student, but knows their family, because they have that relationship built and they're able to build that bridge. And it really does help when an incident occurs, because there's that common ground, that familiarity with one another, and so they're able to communicate and not have an issue, but actually find a solution.
Chief, do the resource officers work closely with the staff as well? Do they train them on how to handle situations so that we don't have them escalating out of control?
We do. We work with our staff at all the campuses, and the SROs are required to be a part of staff development days and find time to get in with the staff and teach them about all kinds of issues. What we've really seen come to the forefront over the last 2 years is mental health issues.
Yes.
And so we've really put an emphasis over the last 2 years about mental health, and working with our staff to recognize mental health issues, and working with our campus administration on mental health issues. We've seen an increase of about 50% in mental health calls over the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. And so we continue to work toward working with our outside providers, working with our school counselors about mental health, because what we're learning is a lot of the behavior that we see on campus is not maybe so much criminal, but because there's an underlying mental health issue.
Right, right.
Let's talk a little bit about how we turn this, let me get my words right. Law enforcement in itself is a reactive job, and we are kind of doing a paradigm shift where we're trying to be proactive. District reps, our school resource officers, we do training programs in the community, and like Chief Mendez said earlier, our campuses are just a smaller community within the community. How do we build that trust in the larger community that law enforcement officers are
Here to help us?
here to help? They're not always bad, that we can build these relationships, that it's okay to actually talk to and build a relationship with a law enforcement officer.
Well, I think first of all, it is relationships are a two-way street. It's absolutely for us, it's a duty to build that relationship, but for the community, it's a responsibility to be part of building that relationship. And I think that the way we do it from our standpoint is several ways. Number one, we have to engage the community, and the way we do that is through I came up with this thing, TREAT, right? Transparency. We have to be transparent with one another. And that's a collective mutual responsibility. Then we have to treat everybody we come in contact with respect. And respect starts with self-respect, which means that kids need to learn how to respect themselves and have respect for themselves, and then respect others. Then we have to engage, right? T, transparency, R, respect, E, engage. We must engage each other, not outside of that 911 call, right? Not just going to the 911 call. Kids have to be engaged with cops. Then the next thing after the engagement is the accountability. We have to hold ourselves accountable as police officers. And I'll be honest with you, I know that the vast majority of police officers, policing, as imperfect as it is better today than it's ever been in my 29-year career. The problem is that we have too many departments still, out of those 18,000 police departments, where they're not holding their officers accountable. And I have a problem with that. And the problem for us is in a time of social media and instant information, people see bad things happening, and then we start painting all police with a really broad brush. We got to treat people, hold people accountable for what they've done, not for what somebody else has done somewhere else. And I think when you do all those things, transparent, respect, engage, accountable, we end up with trust. And to me, it has to be a tireless effort with that TREAT, that TREAT acronym. If we all do that, not only in our professional lives as police officers, in our homes, in our schools, but entire community, nationwide, we're going to have a lot better outcomes.
I think it's important and a valuable asset that people have the opportunity to see you all in this type of a setting where you can sit up and pass that message along, because we do live in times where things are put out there so quickly, and that perception is just spread across the departments, and it's really one person here, one person there, not the whole entire police department. And we appreciate that. We need to be able to convey that message to our students and our families that people are not out to get them, and the police are still good guys.
And
girls,
guys and gals, and we're trying to hire anybody that's watching. We want to hire a diverse workforce. So if you're a woman that has thought about policing, if you thought about a change of career, we are open. We're like Motel 6, the lights on. Come on in. Because the reason that I was drawn to policing is that I wanted to make a difference. And to this day, most police officers are drawn because they want to make a difference. And so you change organizations from within. So if you don't like how we're doing, join us and help us be the change.
There you go. That's a positive message that we need to make sure we send out to the kids.
So we want to give each of you a last opportunity to tell us what you would like the audience to leave with out of this show that they've either heard or seen today. So we'll start with you, Chief Mendez.
I think just the whole conversation that we've had today is that the officers, either working in the community or working on a campus, are there for the student, are there for the child, there to promote their educational experience, their livelihood to be productive within our community. And so what I preach all the time to the officers to share the message with the families is you have to be in a position to make a difference. And so we're here to make a difference. We're here to support the educational environment. We want our students to succeed. Whether they graduate and decide to enter the workforce, or they graduate and go on to higher education, we want them to be successful. And so we do what we can to ensure that success. Unfortunately, do students make bad decisions that we don't have a choice by law and we have to, conduct an investigation, do a police report, and possibly refer them to court? Yes. But in every instance where we have the discretion to keep that from happening, we use that discretion to keep them in the educational environment, look for a corrective learning moment, and find a way to have them promote their education and move forward.
And I love Eric Mendez and his department and AISD for that, because if you look at the national level, not every school district is doing that. Right. And so I just want to say, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for your leadership.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you
very much for your leadership. And I would just say that for me, to the parents, the biggest gift that we can give our children, is an education. And unfortunately, too many kids, black and brown kids, are not completing school. And so I would just say this: if you love your child, and there's no parent that doesn't truly love their child, very few that don't, you can't give them a better gift than an education. So do whatever it takes to keep them in school. AISD's committed, we're committed to helping your child, because when you look at some of the bad outcomes in life with people in prison, it all starts with a seduction of drugs that leads to the seductions of gangs, the seduction of life of crime, and most frequently that seduction starts when somebody drops out of school. So please, our department is here. Whatever you all need in terms of a community, we're committed to children, because we have Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter. Nobody matters more to us than children. Mm-hmm. And so let's give them the gift of a great education, and AISD, that's what they're delivering, so let's take advantage of it.
With that said, and I want to piggyback off what you said about commending Chief Acevedo and commending Chief Mendez and AISD for their work with the law enforcement. Not a lot of school districts have their own law enforcement agencies, and I believe that AISD is setting a standard for having that, because I think that having officers in the schools actually benefits our students, as not to have municipal law enforcement agencies coming in who are used to coming in and being reactive and taking calls 911 and coming in, when you have law enforcement officers already in the schools who have built those relationships. So I think that's good, and I hope our audience understands that. For the community, how can we get involved? Those of us who may not have children.
Or with children who are grown.
Right. How can we help?
Things have changed now.
Who are too old to work in law enforcement.
Let me tell you how you can help. You can volunteer to be a mentor to a child. You can volunteer to come in and 1 hour a week and be a classroom coach. I'm a baby boomer. I was born in 1964, so I'm the last year of the baby boomers, and so a lot of us baby boomers are retiring, and the biggest gift that they can give is to take an interest in a child who no other adult might have an interest in. You want to be a patriot? Don't hold up a flag. Hold up a child, lift up a child, and volunteer in our classrooms. Because you're going to meet that child someday, and the question is, do you want to meet them at the end of a phone line, a service line, or at the end of a gun because they drop out of school because they didn't have the tools they needed? Or do you want to invest in that child? So I think it was Hillary Clinton said it takes a village to raise a child. Come in, be part of that village, and volunteer.
One more message we want to make sure that we send out to our students is that we're going to continue to need police officers. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Please, just encourage them. Tell them how. Just send that message. How can I become a police officer?
Well, I
Either
think,
resource officer, APD.
well, I
sheriff?
think that and I'm sure Chief Acevedo will say the same, is in today's time, with the way things have kind of gone lately, it's getting difficult to find good applicants or even applicants to put in to be police officers. And so what it's kind of like we're talking about, not just people making a difference, but our students.
Absolutely.
You see something in our society today that you don't agree with, or you don't feel like it's going the way you think it should, then become part of that team that makes a difference.
The solution.
And start looking toward law enforcement, and not just to enforce law, but to become difference makers in the community you serve. Whether it's working on a campus or out on a street, individuals can make a difference. They have impacts on communities just by being visible, by taking time to build relationships and talk to individuals. It makes a huge difference if you get out there and you talk to folks. And so, the first step is get through high school, get your education, get some higher education, because what we'll learn statistically is that officers who get some college or have a college degree, have different reasoning abilities and are able to make some different judgment calls. And so you want to make a difference, get your education, look to go to a police department, find one that fits you. And we're different than APD, and so we do a lot of the same, but some of the things we do are different. And so you want to find what matches your characteristics and your personalities, and find a department that fits you, make a difference in the community that you want to serve.
Yes, because some people are much more suited to work with adults than children, and vice versa.
That's correct.
Well, we want to thank you both for being here and talking with us about law enforcement and the collaboration with schools and the community. This has been Breaking Down the Barriers. This is Terry Russell, and I'm Beverly Reeves. As you know, Breaking Down the Barriers is an initiative of the Austin Independent School District. This program was created to bring information on AISD resources, programs, and initiatives to you, our parents, students, and community members.
And again, we'd appreciate if you would like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at AISD_BDB. You can also watch us on AISD's Channel 22 every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 p.m. and every Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. Thank you for joining us for Breaking Down the Barriers.